Hello YouTube, it's Robert coming to you today with my very first screen share video. Finally figured out how to record off my computer screen. It was something that I had seen a lot of videos doing and always looked cool, but I had never taken the time to figure it out. So go ahead and smash the like button for me, just for me figuring that out today, and we'll move right along. Wanted to do it this way so that I could actually show you guys what some of the items are that are selling on my store, what size store I have that's getting me those type of results, and hopefully just give you a little bit of inspiration here, because everything I'm going to show you today is pretty much thrifted through Goodwills and a couple other local thrift stores, things that you could definitely go out and find yourself without needing to establish the supplier, buying inventory in bulk. These are just things that you could start small with, items around your house and out at your local thrift stores. So you'll notice here I've got my first page up, which is just active listings. I've got about 358 items up currently, and if every one of those 358 sold, then if they sold for the full asking price, they'd be worth right around $13,000. And obviously, with my listings all being best offer, they're not going to get $13,000, but even conservatively, most all of my items will get at least half of what I'm asking for them. So that's still around 6,500 or so, and more realistically, it's probably falls somewhere between 8 and 9 when I was all said and done. But some of these items they're going to take a long time to sell too. So wanted to jump right over to what has actually sold. I don't want to spend too much time on my active listings today, but just kind of show you guys over the summer what sold. And summer was pretty dismal for me. I'm gonna go to all orders here. Summer is usually not the busiest season for most businesses, and that's certainly been my experience here with eBay. I'm just kind of getting through my very first full year on here, and summer was definitely the slowest period. So keep that in mind. My activity level personally was a little bit lower, so all those things affected me, but still was able to, over the last 90 days here, which is what this reflects, last 90 days, had a total sold of 53 items, so a little bit more than one every other day, and 2,200 in total sales. So that's still for me worth it as something I can just do part-time for fun and put a little bit of extra money aside for other purposes. So just on Thursday, I was able to ship out a pair of FootJoy dry joys that had been sitting in my storage area for a while, and finally got rid of those. It was probably just the size that's made them take a little bit longer, but sold them for $32. And then the total price here you see of $43.95 reflects what they paid for shipping. So they had another $12 that they paid for shipping. With the eBay discount that I got, I was able to make a couple dollars on the shipping side. And as we go through all these other items, you're going to notice some pretty big discrepancies on some items in terms of what the sold for price was and what the total price was. And most of those I'll kind of touch on. There's areas where I actually make anywhere from $2 or $3 up to almost $10 on the shipping side of it. So next item here was one that was sitting in the closet at my parents' house from when I was a little kid, and just happened to go through some old video games. A lot of them were pretty worthless, but there was a couple that I was seeing sell for a lot on eBay. So this one here I had up for about 2 weeks, and it sold for $60 plus the shipping. There was just USPS first class. Again, on the shipping side, there's not a lot of cost involved for me to ship it, other than the labels and the like Polymailers that I put some items in to protect them. But as far as the boxes themselves, USPS provides the vast majority of those. And you also can get, when you open up an eBay store, you can get some coupons that you can use to purchase eBay shipping supplies, and so you can end up with a vast majority of what you need to ship. virtually for free. So you guys that have watched my most popular video I've recorded thus far was done on ties, and as we go through here, you'll see I do sell a pretty good number of ties for the size of my store and the overall percentage of the ties that are in that store. So first one here sold for 12, 17 with shipping. It only takes me a couple bucks to ship, so I probably made like $2 there. And I think I bought this tie for $2 or $3. Little sales, but they help build your sales volume up, help you get some positive feedback, and just keep rolling. A couple pairs of shoes on these next two items, both for $40. I have a pair of Danner's hiking boots and Dansko professional clogs. Danner's a good brand for boots if you find them in good condition. And then the Dansko professional clogs, I think I'm going to have a couple pairs shown on here today. And I do really well with Danskos. Most of them move pretty well for me. And this pair in particular had a really cool little pattern to it. It's shipped out to Hawaii, so that's $14 shipping. I think it cost me $9 to ship. No, actually I think it was even less than that, because I was able to fit these in a padded flat rate envelope from USPS. So I think it was $7 or $8 actually. So again, it made an extra $5 or so on the shipping side. Ted Baker London tie. This is one that I picked up from a retail store that's kind of a clearance center, and I've found them as kind of my little honey hole for ties. I think I can buy ties there. Pretty much new with tags in most instances, and they're just $4 flat. So there's a couple specific brands I loaded up on, and this one was the first to sell. I actually didn't list this as new. I listed it as pre-owned but never worn. It just had a couple little items that I didn't want to get a return on, and so I figured the pictures would speak for themselves. Sold it for $20. That was full asking price. We got a pair of Timberland boots, and these were definitely a Goodwill find here. I think I got these for $6. They sold for $30 plus $22 in shipping, of which I spent I think $16, $17, whatever the large flat rate box cost is. So I made another extra $4 to $5 again on the shipping side of that. Seeing as how I listed those shoes for $40, took a best offer of $30, it was almost like a splitting the difference for the purposes of what it cost me. So that's one of those items where on best offer, because I don't do free shipping, it gives me a little bit of an opportunity to make back some of that. And for those people that do like the free shipping idea, it probably in most instances works out relatively similarly. If you're offering free shipping, yeah, you can bump your item listing price up a little bit more in most cases. And then if you're not offering free shipping, I tend to price things on the higher end anyways. So if I do get best offers, it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to try and keep it as close to what I'm trying to get on that sale. Vintage Packers jersey. I picked this up with two others, and this was the first of those to sell. I bought all three of them for I think $5 each, and they sold for $50. This jersey looks old because it is, so whoever priced it at Goodwill might have been thinking that, but for me that means vintage, and vintage a lot of times sells for more on here. So a couple more ties. We have Phoenix Suns tie that had been sitting around for quite a while. I had a couple watchers on it, and I made an offer to one of the people watching it just to get rid of it. They accepted, and it cleared out inventory. So lesson there is, if you have people watching your items, go ahead and make an offer to them, and they may pick it up, they may counter you, but it's a really good way to move inventory that otherwise was just not quite selling, but maybe had some good views and people watching it. Following that one, we have a vintage Pendleton wool tie, 100% wool. Again, guys, go watch my tie video, and I go through all of the details on how to source, the brands, the listing process, the shipping process. I think that's my best viewed video for a reason. It's really in depth, and ties are an area that I think a lot of people understand there's good potential in. So Moving on, a couple more pairs of shoes. These Nike Dunks I picked up for less than 10 bucks. They were in pretty good shape. A lot of those Nike basketball shoes, I have to search while I'm in there to find out if I'm looking at something that's worthless or if it's, a pair that people are really after. I don't know my sneakers very well, but I do know that some sneakers sell for hundreds of dollars in the resale market, and this was one that a lot of them were on this particular pair selling 60 to 80. So I listed it for 70 and then took a best offer within about a week and a half. Cole Haan, another shoe brand that I like quite a bit. If they're in good condition and I can pick them up for $5 to $8. Most of these I sell between 30 and 50. All right, we've got this new vintage Five Brothers shirt made in the United States. That's always a real big indicator for me that I might be looking at a vintage item. And even if it's not necessarily vintage, made in USA usually is a really big positive for what you can sell those clothing items for. This one I picked up in green, and I picked up another one in red side by side at Goodwill. They were both $6 and sold for $50 each. Let's see, Carlos Santana. These shoes, they were like boots, real decorative. They didn't look like they were necessarily the best quality, but they're really intricate patterns, pretty shoes, and they were in perfect condition. So I listed them as used, let the pictures speak for themselves, and they sold within about 2.5-3 weeks for 28 bucks. I think I actually paid $10, $12 for this, so it wasn't a great sale for me, but I got rid of them quickly, so that was always nice. Another instance of me going and finding 3 jerseys side by side at Goodwill, all new with tags, was some Dallas Cowboys jerseys. I found 2 for wear, and then I think the third one was Romo. But this wear here was a black jersey, like for one of their blackout games, and the other 2 were the traditional blue Cowboys colors. This sold really quick and sold for $41 plus shipping. All 3 of those jerseys I got for less than 10 bucks, so pretty quick turnaround on those, and they were in really good condition. So I was surprised that they weren't priced higher at eBay, because at Goodwill, because Goodwill's been jacking prices up. Next one, brand called Xanarobi T-shirt. It's a 100% cotton T-shirt made in Australia. It's kind of like their streetwear brand. Australia is one that I look at now very differently after coming across the brand Coogee for their sweaters. So I just was like, well, Coogee sells for hundreds of dollars, and here's another Australia-made company. So I looked it up, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of listings for Xanarobi on eBay. This shirt cost me $2 or $3, and it sold for $35. So that was another one that sold pretty quick and had a great profit for me on it. Moving along, we got Harley Davidson. Guys, I do pretty well with anything by Harley Davidson, but if you can pick up any of their t-shirts from the different Harley Davidson stores around the world at thrift stores, where you're maybe paying anywhere between like $2 and I've paid as much as $8 for some that were really intricate, cool logos and stuff, I pretty consistently sell them. And we're talking t-shirts here, guys. I pretty consistently sell at a minimum of $20, and I've gotten as much as $40 to $45 on their t-shirts. I've also bought the button-down shirts, like bowling style button-downs. All of that stuff sells well for Harley if it's in good shape. There's not much that I won't pick up from that brand. Got a pair of Merrell boots. Merrell's a great company to look for in shoes. These I think were $5, sold for $35. There's very little in this entire video, guys, that you're going to see where I paid more than $10 for anything. Pair of Harley Davidson slides. I had these sitting around for a while. They finally sold, and then I had to issue a partial refund because of some shipping issues. But again, Harley Davidson, definitely keep that brand in mind, guys. It does really well. These next couple shirts I've actually worn or showcased in other videos that I've done, but I did one on selling vintage shirts that featured this one for some Western wear, and it sold just very shortly after that video for $61. I had picked this one up in blue and in red, probably February of this year, and the red one sold almost immediately for $95. The blue one I thought would have sold first, but it finally turned around and sold here just a couple weeks back, and I got $61 for it. Both of those shirts I bought for $8, so two really good items. Next one here is this vintage Izod Lacoste shirt. I also actually wore this in another video just recently, and it sold a few days later. I picked this up with, I think, 4 other vintage Izod shirts for $3 a piece, and you can see here $40 on just this first one. I've got another one down here somewhere that's also sold. I'll show you in a second. Burton Dry Ride jacket sold for $35 August 7th. So people are starting to think about hitting the slope soon, and some of that warmer wear will hopefully start to increase in sales as well for me. But a couple items I'll show you today that are definitely for cold weather that sold in July and August. So although some things are pretty seasonal, you can still sell something any time of the year. It'll surprise you. Next item is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi. I've found 2 of these at Goodwill's. The cool thing with these is this is one of those items where people will think, oh, I'm going to go and start training in Jiu-Jitsu. They go and check it out, they don't like it, and then they bought this $120 gi, and it ends up at a Goodwill. And then they don't always know what to do with it. So this was like $10, sold for $40. I've bought another gi that I bought again for like $10, and it actually sold for $60. So these, think of things that people might pick up and then decide they don't like, and have invested in equipment that's pretty expensive, that then ends up getting sold off at a garage sale or dropped off at a thrift store. Another tie, Canali. This is a great brand for men's clothing, and I think was a tie I forgot to mention in my tie video, but this was one that I picked up for $3 and sold for $30 in about 2 weeks. So you guys can probably see why I like selling ties. There's a lot of money in it, and these are one of the easier items to pick up, to store, to ship, to list. Again, go watch my tie video if you're interested in learning more. It goes into a lot more detail on that. Steve Nash jersey. A couple stains on this, so I was able to pick this up a lot cheaper than I would have guessed. I think I paid $6 for it. I cleaned the stains out and sold it. It sold a couple weeks later, so $22. Not a huge sale, but keeps things going. Robert Talbot, Best of Class. I find these all the time at Goodwill, and usually I'm finding them for $1 to $2. There's been some I've paid as much as $4 for, and they usually are the ones I can get like $30 for. So another cold weather item that sold in the summer was this Denver Broncos starter jacket. It's a real big heavy jacket. It sold July 29th for $60. I paid $6 for that jacket, so huge profit for me there. I had a canceled order, and then we jumped to vintage t-shirt. Some vintage t-shirts on the bands sell for tons and tons of money, and then there's a lot that you might only be able to get $20 or $30 for. But if you're going through the t-shirt rack, you can find some of these for 99 cents, $2.99. You're paying just a couple bucks for them, and again, they're not that difficult to store. They don't take up much space if you're careful with how you store them all. So that's a good one. Pair of Nikes that I sat on for way too long, and I think I paid too much for these. I'm pretty sure I paid $12, $14 for them, and finally got rid of them for $27. So not losing money on it, but they weren't a great sale for me. Now this next one, Robert Talbot Best of Class tie. Another thrift store find, Goodwill, paid $3 for it. It sold within 2 days for 30 bucks. This was a really pretty tie. I actually felt like I could have listed that for more, just because of the particular pattern on it. So, not too disappointed with those results, but I probably left maybe another $5 to $10 on the table because it sold really quick. That's usually an indication you may have priced it slightly low. No best offer on that either. They just paid full price for it. Another one of those vintage Lacoste shirts. This was actually labeled as Saks Fifth Avenue, but it had the little alligator logo on it, and paid $3 for it. It sold for $22 in a couple weeks. I have this raccoon fur coat I had picked up for $12, sold for $36. I think this one I actually did on an auction style, because I had no idea what to price it at. Didn't know much about furs and the conditions of them, and thought, well, I'll just get rid of it. So it sold for $36. They paid $25 in shipping, of which I made I think $5 or $6 extra on the shipping side. Another snowboard jacket, kind of a brand I wasn't real familiar with, but this was one that was like a $4 or $5 pickup, sold for $30. San Antonio Shoes is a great brand. I've got, I think, a couple on here that have sold in the last 90 days, and I picked these up for like $3 or $4, sold for $36, and then another almost $20 in shipping. And you guys can imagine, these are pretty light shoes. They didn't cost much to ship. I actually made like $10 on the shipping here. And I do that a lot of times by letting eBay make suggestions on the shipping amounts and based on where people are, and then knowing that when I can do a flat rate instead of calculated shipping, that's where I can make some money there. Same thing on this next item, which is a vintage hand planer made from the 20s, and I found this for $8, sold it for $55 plus another 20 something dollars here on the shipping side. We've got next some Nike shoes. Again, I think these I paid $6 or $7 for. They didn't have shoelaces. I didn't put laces on them. I just included in there that they were no laces and put it up on auction. It sold for $30. Walt Disney World, anything that you can find from Disney or Universal Studios, a lot of those parks, as long as it's showing that it actually was an item that was sold in the park, I usually pick those up. This Mickey's Fire Department was a kid's shirt. I didn't realize that, I guess, when I first bought it. So it sold for $10. I think I paid $3. Very little in there. That's usually one I don't consider worth my time, but I was able to get rid of it relatively quick. Another Robert Talbot Best of Class tie, $30 sale on an item that I probably paid $3 for. So again, ties are a lot of money. Harley Davidson, I had this hat sitting around for quite a while. I had seen them sell for $100 to $120, but it seemed like that had been a little while, so I finally took a best offer of $70 and got rid of it there. Salvatore Ferragamo men's tie, paid $2 for this, sold for $15. A pair of Mizuno Wave Bolt shoes. These were in really good shape, and they were only like $6 again, so sold for $20. Was able to ship them for less than the $12 that I got paid, so made an extra couple bucks there. Hopefully you guys are kind of recognizing a pattern in terms of what I'm paying for these items, and then also in the shipping side where I can make an extra few bucks. Got a couple t-shirts here. One is a t-shirt that said Thug on it. It was made in the United States, so that's what caught my eye. And then the back of the shirt said those helpful union guys, and it's a union organization's shirt that they had made. So I just looked it up on eBay and saw that there was actually a lot of union t-shirts selling, and I was able to get this for $2, and it sold for $30. So who knew? But I'll keep my eye out for any kind of union shirts in the future. Vintage Nautica, this was a terrible buy on my part. It took forever to sell, and I basically made my money back all said and done. Same thing, this particular Brooks Brothers tie. The quality of this specific one was not great, and so I didn't make very much on it. Brooks Brothers is a brand that I can usually make $15 to $20 on, sometimes even a little bit more, but you want specific conditions, specific lengths, all the things again that I talk about in my tie video. So another plug for that video if you guys haven't watched it. It's hard to lose money, guys, selling on eBay when you're buying thrifted items, but electronics has proven to be an area that I'm capable of losing money on, and that's because, you know, I tried to test this item in Goodwill. It was working. I could turn it on. I was able to plug it in, and the sound quality was awesome on it, but the little input for the power cord was broken, so there's no ability to charge it past whatever it had when I got it. And I ended up auctioning it off. Somebody else is probably going to repair it, and then they'll make the $50 that I've seen these sell for. So lesson learned. I stick with the easier stuff, like these Danskos again, sold for $50. Asics running shoes, basically got my money back on those. And this other pair was one that sold up earlier in this video. This was another order where it was canceled, but I auctioned it twice, and the second one actually stuck. Harry Potter from the Universal Studios. This was a long sleeve, like almost like a sweater, but for $4 turned that into $30. And just a couple more items here, guys. Another pair of the SAS shoes. These I bought for $4 or $5, sold for $44. I really like SAS shoes. They're usually in that $4 to $8 range, and you'll see them selling in the $40 to $60 quite often. So that's a shoe brand that I've been able to make pretty good money with on every pair. Those in like Danskos are two shoe brands that I sell pretty consistently, even when some of my other items are sitting around for a little bit longer. So they've been good. Patagonia, I don't find a lot of Patagonia. I know that there's a couple people that I follow that do really well with Patagonia, especially on the winter items, and a couple girls that they just kill it on Poshmark with Patagonia clothing. This was one of, I think, 2 Patagonia items that I've found, but both of them have sold, so I currently have no Patagonia clothing that I can think of in my store. Last up here, guys, I have this vintage 90s Nutmeg Mills San Francisco 49ers sweater. This I talked about in a video that I did on sports, vintage sportswear, and I think I had just sold this at the time I filmed that, but it sold for $36. I picked this up for $4 or $5, and Nutmeg Mills is a brand I really like for sweaters. This one, I think it didn't have the most exciting graphic that a lot of the sweaters have, but it was an NFC champion sweater, so it kind of commemorated a big achievement on the team's part, and I think that helped. Most of those sweaters I list for around $40 to $45, and this one I got $36 for. So that's it, guys. 53 sales over the summer. Definitely not ideal for me, but as I continue to list more items and we are getting into the busier season, sales are slowly picking up. August, just the last couple weeks, has been significantly better than where June and July were. So it's, I think, a good sign that things are picking up. And with that being said, that's kind of all I wanted to touch on today. If you guys have any questions or comments, please put them down in the comment bar. It allows me to go into any more specifics that I need to for you guys to learn what you need. And it also helps YouTube with the algorithm for this getting spread a little bit more. Again, smashing that like button does the same thing for me. And I would love it if you'd subscribe and follow my channel, and hopefully learn things from future videos that I post up. So until next time, guys, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you soon.